Welcome to Insight Meditation, Community of Charlotte. I invite you to look around the room and see who our Sangha is tonight. Hi to everybody online. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for turning your cameras on. I really appreciate that if you can do that. Even if it's pointed out the window, it's better than the black box. Thank you. Thank you. So my name is Thia, and I'm happy to be your Dharma leader for the evening. And it's so nice to sit together, isn't it? Isn't it easier when we're sitting together somehow? I always feel that way, so glad to be here. So another field report from me. Whenever I give a Dharma talk, I feel like a scientist giving a field report, and this is what I've discovered. And so what's been happening recently is I went on a 10-day silent retreat, and I really love to reiterate that to myself, how important it is to, turn your phone in and not have any devices, feel that anxiety of not having any devices. I think that's kind of unusual, but just give my whole self over to trying to relax and be aware and just remember how to relax and be aware. I think it's unusual that we practice remembering how to relax, but I mean, essentially that's a lot of what mindfulness is. It's just going, oh yeah, take a breath, just be here, So the importance of letting go, I think, can't be overemphasized because we are in the crave-on culture. It's really celebrated, and so letting go is the opposite of grasping and gripping and wanting and craving, and it's something to go to change gears and suddenly be in a culture where everybody is there to practice letting go. Everybody kind of has scruffy little clothes on and socks with holes in them, and we're not making eye contact, and we're very quiet, and the food is very simple, and it's a relief to put all this down, all the chatter and all of the trying to look good and make conversation. It's a big relief to go on retreat. So I found that I'm not too interested in recalibrating. Now that I'm back, everything feels like it's moving quickly to me in the life that I was perfectly synced up with when I left, right? Now it feels like a lot, and it feels fast. Each day is speeding by with too much stuff in it, and I'm finding that I'm more interested daily in some kind of depth experience, even if just for a little while. I can usually find that in the garden or some conversations, but more interested in some kind of clarity each day, something that I can kind of trust or make sense of. And one takeaway from this retreat was just mustering kindness as much as possible. So retreat time is basically an extended time of self-regulation, where you're kind of noticing, any snarky thoughts or just trying to self-regulate. Just watch who you really are. And for me, this involves monitoring the nervous system. And at some point, I began to find that funny. I thought, we actually have a system in our bodies, that's dubbed the nervous system, right? Like, no wonder we're anxious, right? And it just began to sort of crack me up that everybody was there to calm down, to be quiet together. And in the beginning, there's usually, at this retreat, there were about 120 people there, and so there's a lot of rustling and settling in the beginning, but to be in a room with that many people and you can hear a pin drop is really, really something. The silence is palpable. So the days on retreat, most of you know this, are sitting meditation, walking meditation, sitting meditation, walking meditation. And it's just kind of designed to make it doable, and then you do get instructions. And this retreat had 3 teachers, and instead of one-on-one meetings with the teacher, you get group meetings. So this became a big source of anxiety for me on this retreat. I'm embarrassed to report, but I much prefer a one-on-one where I can really be honest. I could feel my comparing mind come up. There were some seasoned meditators, and they were talking about the depth of their samadhi and this and that, and I immediately thought, well, that's not happening for me yet. What am I going to talk about? And what can I mention that will sound at least as good as, or better than that, right? It's embarrassing. It really, when you start seeing the mind jockeying for position to look good in a group. So I saw that right off the bat. And my challenge was to gently try to ignore this chattering, plan that was being hatched in the back of my head, and really get in touch with, how was I feeling in that moment? And, could I let my guard down with these people? There's usually pretty nice people at meditation retreats, like not people that you would be afraid would pull a gun or something, right? So the consequence of sitting still so much is that we develop an ability to see through things, like see through our own, bullshit, basically. And I could see through myself. This points to transparency of a sort where we not only can see our own posturing, but we can kind of notice it in others too. Like the ability to see the mind creating strategies, and I could already see the mind strategizing for the next group check-in, like what could I say? And that's exhausting. That's like the opposite of what I was supposed to be doing, right? So much posturing and planning. It's an interesting byproduct to see that. Not the pretty parts of ourselves, not the parts we're that proud of. And so one of the undeniable reasons to make these kind of retreats a part of your life is how soothing this technology of mindfulness ends up being. We end up kind of learning to laugh at ourselves, not take ourselves too seriously, just see how full of it we actually are. And it is a technology because we get this training of learning to stay with the breath, coming back to the breath, somehow keeping curious about the breath, because every breath really is different in some way, shape, or form. And then the body and its whole host of itches and aches and requests and, I'm hungry, I need to go to the bathroom, everything about the body that needs to be managed on retreat seems to show up really big as well. So we need this soothing technology of mindfulness just to be able to have some kind of executive function, really, in our life when we're being hijacked by any of these things that I've just named, to be able to say, got it, I hear you, in a minute, right? So, all your neuroses tend to float to the top during retreat, and it begins to feel kind of comical to see the immature parts of myself still functioning like high school. The whiny parts, the competitive parts, the nosy parts, like I wonder what his story is. And the jealous parts, wow, she sits like a mountain and she's only in her 20s. How does she do that, Judgmental. And a lot of the small and suffering parts of myself I can see are still in there. The parts that feel like they could be left over from very old hurts. So we can only look on these parts of ourselves with kindness, and that's another great blessing of being on retreat, is to be able to love ourselves in this way. One of my teachers says you've just got to love them to death. When you see those parts, just love them to death, till they wither away. So this most recent retreat was like a Dharma rodeo for me. It was challenging. The only thing keeping me in the saddle was mindfulness. I had some brief moments of clear seeing, of some penetrating mindfulness, and these insights can be so brief. You just want to grab something and write it down, and they really discourage that. They're like, trust yourself. If it came to you, it will be there. It's there somewhere. And but they feel like you need to grasp them or they'll be gone. And usually they're back, and they almost feel like little fireflies, like, oh yeah, that. And it's like they're whispering, try me out, see if this is really true. These little sparks of insight, they're like an invitation, really, on retreat. And they stop sparking if we don't RSVP, if we don't respond in some way, and remember to integrate them into our life. And some of these little insights are things, like I have a really bad habit of interrupting people. If I get excited in a conversation, I'll just bulldoze right over you. And I'm not at all proud of that. Actually, it means I'm very interested in what we're talking about, but that's no excuse. So one of the things that really came up for me is, learning how to wait for things, for space, for my turn, to make space for other people, more space, and being more conscious and more conscientious as I speak. So that was an insight that feels very true for me, that I'm trying to practice now, right away. And the opposite could be true for you. It could be not, like being brave enough to say anything. Like some people just don't speak up. So figuring out your assignment is sort of part of the retreat process. Like what are the takeaways here? One of the main takeaways is seeing through some of your own tired, small stories, and that's sobering, and that brings tenderness too. I think that's a large part of what insight is about. We see that we create our own suffering by clinging on to these stories of what we should be doing, who we should be, or what we should have done. Seeing how I continue to create my own drama and anxiety is a huge gift of the Dharma, and it's humbling. And so often, with the help of a kind teacher, bless their hearts, can you imagine patiently listening to 120 people droning on about whatever it is that's bothering them or holding them back, or but they patiently listen, and sometimes you both know that what you're talking about is not really what's at stake, but something opens there. Something opens often. When we begin to cross over this bridge and trust our own experience in retreat, there's so much kindness that we feel for our own struggles, and for me it forges a connection to the people around me too. I get that everybody is struggling for some sort of truth, like something to believe in, something to trust, to be loved, to have the opportunity to love and be loved, to not just occur as authentic, but actually feel authentic. Imposter syndrome comes up with mindfulness a lot. Like, who do I think I am here, really? And being a Dharma leader on retreat, I never tell people I'm a Dharma leader on retreat, because I don't want them to go like, well, she obviously doesn't know what she's doing. How did she get to be a Dharma leader, Because really on retreat, we don't know what we're doing. That's kind of the whole point, is to place yourself in this unknowing and stick with it, and not beat yourself up. So I think most of the time we just want someone to tell us what to do. Like, just tell me, how to do it, and I'll do it, right? But with the Dharma, everybody's path is so different. And so we have to forge our own heroic journey through this silent land. I can't know what's in your head and heart. You can't really know what's in mine. I can barely know what's in mine. So why am I sharing all this tonight? I think that for a long time I believed on this myth that we go on retreat, we sign up, we show up, we stay on the cushion, and then bam, we reap the benefits, right? And, I hear the laughter. It doesn't work that way. You might have a peaceful, silent retreat where not much happens. One teacher, Adyashanti, says silence is its own transmission. So sometimes a retreat where it feels like nothing much really unfolded can be a very, very powerful reset for our autonomic nervous system and for the parts of us that are still healing from old wounds and disappointments and hurts. And we have to be willing for anything to happen. And so for me, like I said, this was a rodeo retreat. I was kind of all over the place, started out kind of solid and quiet, and then right in the belly of the retreat, when everybody else is settling down, I'm suddenly having all these emotions and thoughts and memories and squirming and just really kind of feeling out of control. So that's not the fun part. I think that this human condition has this underground stream of desire, and it's part of what keeps us alive. And I believe that the Buddha was able to tease apart this desire that he needed to wholesomely sustain his life, what's required to be healthy, to continue to be alive. Like, he accepted this bowl of rice that kept him alive at some point. And but he loosened all these other threads of desire that are just strings in a tapestry that attach us to this, what can be a heavy blanket of suffering that we weave, that we create. So the Buddha says, whatever you frequently think about and ponder, this will become the inclination of your mind. Joseph Goldstein says, the mind will think anything. It's shameless. So I was in the second category on this particular retreat, bouncing kind of between the two. Thank goodness for the Dharma talks, to kind of steer you back into the Brahma Viharas, into feeling kind, into feeling generous, but a real emotional rodeo was happening. And in that way, each retreat is a personal experience. And for me, just shy of 70 years old, I realized I'm still growing up. I'm still sensing possibilities of a more robust, loving nature, that I can be more generous with myself and with the people around me, and I can definitely be more honest with myself and the people around me. And I feel this love of Dhamma working in me, waking up these things. I even think I love humans a little bit more, which is hard to do these days. And then the ideas, part of what's required here is surrendering pride about who I am and what I think I know. One teacher that I really respect says, honest love, any kind of honest love, crushes pretense. And so if our love is honest, we just keep showing up, not pretending to know how this works or how it's going to turn out, but knowing that there's something here for us. And that's definitely how I feel about this path. It's helped me become disentangled from lifelong narratives. And this might be why sometimes it feels mystical and kind of hard to speak about. Sometimes it even hurts in kind of a wholesome, but still a painful way. It can be painfully beautiful to sit with yourself and sit with others who are on the same path, interested in seeing who they really are and what's really true. So in essence, we're forging a path that only we can take. And to be more accurate, we might be trying to find out what we need to unknow, the ways we've been conditioned, and release the need to be specific ways in our life. I think this is closer to the truth, because we can't think our way into this. It's all really heart energy. It's just heart energy. But we can have wise intentions, and we, like we're doing tonight, create the conditions that seem favorable for somehow making our way. Then the next step is not to insist that the Dhamma delivers, but to just give it all up and find out what surrender really means to you. So I think that I'm going to close here. It feels like a good place to close. I think that what's happening is our capacity to hold our own life grows with this practice. That we gain a sense of reverence for our own suffering and anxiety. We're willing to try to understand it. And in this way, we're able to kind of cradle ourselves and say, honey, I see that it's like this for you right now, that you can be in pain, you can have blind spots, and still you can be filled with willingness and with understanding and with love. So let's sit for just a minute here.